Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of the Walking Dead TV podcast. I'm Jordan from Jersey, joined tonight by Aaron Newirth and Jim Dietz. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Welcome to Tasha Yar's barbecue and garden party.
All you can eat.
All you can eat.
Claimed.
This week we're going to be talking about episode 415 of The Walking Dead, us, or US, we can get into that later, and we got a voicemail, we're going to talk sponsor, we got all kinds of stuff, so let's get right into it. And why don't we start with a voicemail we got before this week's episode played. What do you say, gentlemen?
Oh man, now
well,
I can't listen to it. He claimed it.
Exactly.
So frustrating.
Well, how about this, Aaron? I chopped the voicemail in half because it has two questions, so why don't we listen to the first half now and the second half later?
Solomon rules. All right, I'll go with it.
Alrighty.
Hey guys, Craig Gamondi here, also from Jersey. Hey, what's up, Jordan? And guys, listen, I wanted to first leave this voicemail. I've been threatening to do so for many weeks now, and I'm finally doing it. But before I get started, I want to thank all of you involved in HHWLOD, Walking Dead podcast, all the guys that make this possible every week. It is really enjoyable to listen to. You guys come prepared, and the show is really well put together and edited, and I know it's not easy to make a show like that, so I want to thank you on behalf of all the fans that may not be involved in the Facebook page or may not have the guts to leave a voicemail, so I'm speaking on behalf of everybody. Thanks, guys. Okay, but I do have a bone to pick with you. I think you have all been a little lenient on the producers and on the show for the second half of the season. This character stuff is moving really, really slow, and I am with you all. I was excited when I heard that Scott Gimple was going to be the executive producer. I said, this is great. He wrote some good episodes. I think 18 Miles Out he was part of, Clear. I said, this is perfect. But when you take a whole season, and Rick isn't even a part of maybe a third or even more of an entire season, and you have these smaller character-driven stories, it's not so great. The episode Clear worked because it was mixed in as kind of a break from this intense plot-driven action that happened in the third season, so it worked. You make a whole season of just these smaller, Clear-like stories, and I don't think it's working so much. Don't get me wrong. I still love the show, but I think your ratings have been a little high on these episodes. You all seem to enjoy them, and I do too. I mean, you can see my Buster ratings every week on the Facebook page. I've been giving in the mid to high threes, and I think mainly because of the acting, not because of the writing, not because of the story. The actors are just really in their game right now. They are living these characters. They are inhabiting these characters, and it shows. So they're elevating bad scripts, or at least weaker scripts. So that's my only bone to pick with you guys.
Well, first off, thank you for the voicemail, Craig. We'll get to the second half after we answer this question. Aaron, as the person who I would say rates the episodes the lowest out of this half season, do you want to start or do you want to wait till the end?
I agree with Craig's statement to a point, just because I have been rating the episodes on a lower scale, I guess, than you guys. Of course, it's all subjective. I mean, so overall, it doesn't necessarily matter, and it's a number as opposed to our words that we're using to explain why we like or dislike certain things about episodes. So if that's it, I feel like I've been rating on a scale that I would consider it overrating it, I guess, for the episodes that I've been discussing on the show last week. Of course, like Jordan, you loved episode last week, and I thought it was fairly average just because of certain narrative shortcuts it took and script writing. And like the Governor episodes, those are maybe my least favorite episodes of the entire series. So I mean, it's for me, I would say I feel like I'm right on par with what if I have to assign a number to these episodes. I don't think I'm overrating it, but I mean, that's where I stand on it. What do you guys think?
Well, I've been rating, I think the really high, like 4.5, 4.75 I gave to were like two standout episodes. Like I thought The Grove was a standout. I thought a few episodes ago I also gave another high rating too. But I mean, I agree with you, Aaron. The Governor episodes are like the low point of the series for me. I mean, I just couldn't stand what they're trying to bring us around to thinking old Phil's not so bad after all. But no, forget it. If you,
Oh, his name is Brian.
or Phil. I don't know. Read the book and find out. But I agree. Like for instance, some of these have worked for me, some of these haven't. The ones that are just more like, okay, let's get the plot moving along, haven't worked for me as well. Like this week's episode we'll talk about as some of the stuff that's just a little more focused on the characters. I also agree with what Craig said about the actors out acting what's written for them. I think that we said something to that effect in the last episode. I think the acting is definitely of a higher caliber than the script writing here, and that really does a lot for me to elevate the overall quality of the episodes. But like I thought last episode was good, was a standout again mainly because of the acting. But very few of them have been like have really put me over the moon. And I also agree with Craig's point that it's taking them a long time to get to this next thing. I thought sure we'd I didn't think we'd Terminus would be the season ender. I thought they'd be there by now. So I think it's both a good and a bad thing. The pacing he's right there. It's not as fast as it was for season 3.
So, like Aaron, you said right in the beginning, it's all subjective, and I think that's point number one in giant blinking letters is everybody's in the show for something different as viewers, and whether you're pleased by something or not is going to depend on what you're looking for. And in terms of the plot versus character discussion, for me it depends on what show I'm watching. There's some shows where I watch more for the plot, there's some shows I watch more for the character, and some more of a mix. This is kind of a mix, but leaning more strongly towards character. And when there's plot stuff going on that's pretty major, something from the comic I'm familiar with, or have a good idea where it's going, like Woodbury or something like that, yeah, I am interested in, okay, let's get to the next thing. But in episodes like this, where the plot, the overall goal or whatever, is a little bit more nebulous, get to Terminus, but we don't know exactly what that means, I don't care as much. And I don't want to say, like, I don't care what happens to Terminus. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in a situation like that, I'm perfectly fine with them taking 15 episodes to get to Terminus, or however long it takes them to get there. Obviously, they got there in this episode. But if I'm enjoying the character stuff, I don't need the team, the characters to be going towards some place, because for me, I enjoy the show just as much when it's just about them surviving. As long as they're doing it interestingly, as long as there's interesting character stuff going on, I don't care where they're going, unless there is something really interesting going on that we already know about where they're going. Maybe Terminus has that, maybe it doesn't. But until we get there, I don't care how long it takes to get there, as long as they're doing interesting stuff in the meantime and building those characters. So it all really just depends what you're looking for the show to be. This isn't a movie; it's an ongoing show. It's a story that has no ending. This is not spoilers, but they're not going, regardless of what happens with Eugene and everything story, they're not going to suddenly get rid of zombies because that's the show. So all this kind of stuff, it's just all of it's filler if you want to get that down to it. The entire show is filler because there's no end game. It's all about the characters. So for me, that's what I'm looking for.
There'll be more to say, I think, when next week and like the preceding weeks where we have the whole season wrapped up, and we can weigh in on what we thought overall of what they're trying to accomplish this season, because there's obviously a level of expectation when you introduce something like Terminus, but you don't know where that's going necessarily. And we're sitting here, basically predicting that maybe they'll all meet up soon, or they'll all get to Terminus in this number of weeks and whatnot. And that hasn't happened. And reviewing episodes week by week, you can only go so far with assessing what the plot is versus the pacing of the season and what makes the most sense. And obviously, this one has a much different idea of how to go about things than previous seasons have. With that said, you have to assess these episodes with only as much knowledge as the episode gives you, and not based on where the show headed overall. I mean, we can obviously do a Buster rating for the season later on or something, but going week by week, we only have so many means to rate set episodes. And while I feel like I've been as harsh as I've been as judgmental as I can in a way that allows for a good conversation about an episode rather than just saying 5, 5, 5, 1. Like it's interesting to be in these conversations where we can talk about what we think of these episodes, what we think of these performances, what we think of these plot lines, what we predict could happen, what happened based on the book, all while not necessarily thinking about a number in our head, just thinking of using words to explain said things.
I think where the seams are really starting to show in the show for me though is in the writing and in the scripts. I mean, you mentioned some logic problems you had with the script last time. I had some logic problems from this episode, big time. I mean, it's like, what is Glenn like the poster boy for bad decisions now? Just because he wants to get to Maggie? I mean, I don't know. It really kind of bothered me this episode. I think that's really where, for me, the seams are starting to show in the episodes. I mean, I'm with you, Jordan. If the characters are gripping enough and what's happening between them is is enough to get me to watch them. It doesn't matter where they're going or if they're just sitting around making a sandwich. I'm going to watch the show. But there's a real difference when you're watching drama between hearing someone deliver dialogue and hearing someone have a conversation. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and in this show, I hear a lot of people delivering dialogue, and it's rare that we actually hear someone that sounds like they're actually having a conversation. And I know that's kind of a nebulous distinction or whatever, but it's something that bothers me and kind of takes me out of the experience sometimes.
I completely agree with you, Jim. That's something that even before I was consistently on this podcast, I'd always be writing, the reviews of the episodes, and it's the thing that I've been remarking on the most. It's that the writing tends to be all on the wall, but not all that, impressive. And like an episode like Still, for example, the episode that I wasn't on for this half of the mid-season, like that's when I had a lot of problems with, just because of the way it's telling me things that I basically already knew about Daryl and Beth, but we had to stretch that out to an hour. I know some people like that episode a lot more than others, but it's just like there's only so much you can accomplish within the season that has only so many episodes and only so many and a bunch of characters to get through. Like it goes back and forth, and so yeah, I enjoy the character stuff, and it's nice to see like some kind of plot happening. Obviously, there's character arcs that are the most important thing at the end of the day here. We have all these different characters, we see different things, different people having kind of wrapped up arcs, such as like Tyrese and Carol's arc is technically wrapped up, so, and Rick still has a little bit to go at the end of the season, and Glenn and Maggie stuff's wrapped. Like there's all these different aspects. So yeah, again, I guess at the next week and weeks after we can discuss the season overall.
I think it's also important to mention what we're rating against, and what I mean by that is I can't speak for you guys, but for me, my 1 out of 5 is based on what I think the show can do and what I've seen it can do. So a 5 for me is what I think is the best the show has done, or the best I think it can do, versus a 1, which would be this is just the worst the show has done. I'm not rating it against Big Brother or Breaking Bad. I wasn't purposely doing 2 BB shows, but I'm rating it against The Walking Dead. So if it's a 5, it's a 5 for The Walking Dead. It's not 5 from all of TV history. Which if you're rating it based on that, yeah, your ratings are going to be presumably quite lower, unless you're counting just all the Here Comes Honey Boo Boo type stuff and all those kind of things, in which case it's going to sway the other way. But like we said, it's all subjective.
That's a great way to put it, Jordan, because that is how I rate these too. It is a rate based on what I know The Walking Dead is capable of. And I make no secret, The Walking Dead is not a favorite show of mine. It is a show that I enjoy watching. I love talking about, I love writing about, because there's a lot of things to write and talk about. But I wouldn't put it in my top 5 shows. Well, I do watch it right away every week. But it's a show that I know what kind of limitations it has in terms of quality overall, based on what I've seen, 4 seasons in at this point. And that is the way that I try to rate these based on what I've seen it, how I've seen it be at its best. And there are a handful of episodes that I have given 5s to, and a lot I haven't, and a lot I haven't given 4.5s to. Like there's only so much consideration you can give to a number rating a show as far as how good the show is capable of being.
That's why I really appreciate the fact we always have our Buster ratings at the end, because if you're listening to the podcast, it'd be very easy, like you were saying before, 5, 4, 4.5, okay, now, and people get what they will from that kind of nebulous number rating and tune out. I think it's much more about the discussion about the show, the potential of the show, how the show relates to the comic, how the characters relate to another, and what we think about that. Rather than just trying to, it's fun. It's obviously everybody likes to break things down into a rating system, as simply as they can, and it's quick and it's easy. And it's like a bite-sized little bit of information. But the reason I do this podcast is like you and I like to be able to discuss these things and kind of go a little deeper below the surface. So.
That's a good question, by the way. I like this question.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig.
And it leads well into the second question, so let's listen to the second half of his voicemail now.
I also asked a while ago on the Facebook page if you all could name your favorite episode of the entire series up to now. So mine would be the first episode of the 3rd season, Seed, where they take over the prison. I just loved that episode. It was intense from the get-go. It set the pace for the entire 3rd season. The writing, the music, the action, everything was spot on. The acting was perfect. And that's my favorite one of the series so far. And I've yet to see an episode get close to that level of enjoyment for me. So that's all I have, guys. Again, thanks for putting together such a great show. I look forward to listening to you every week, and have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your voicemail, Craig. We appreciate it. It's given us lots of conversation.
For sure.
So, gentlemen, I think we said last week, so the cat's out of the bag for that one. I think so far my favorite episode is The Grove. If not that, then probably 18 Miles Out. But what about the two of you?
I'd have to say Nebraska, just because it really kind of represents in a nutshell all that Walking Dead is about, trying to hold on to what you are or were in the face of like total barbarism and anarchy. And there's a lot of good character stuff there with Herschel, who's one of my favorite characters in the series, and I just thought that was a really strong episode, so I'll go with that. Also, probably Clear would be another one.
Clear is my choice for my favorite episode of the series. I think that the pilot is pretty fantastic in terms of kind of the standalone thing that sets up the future and Frank Darabont directing and everything. But Clear is it's a good example of everything that Jim just said actually for me. It represents everything that I think The Walking Dead is capable of. I think it's a solid standalone episode. I think you can walk into Clear, not necessarily have an idea of what the show is in general, and sit down and watch and be satisfied with the hour. Lenny James just needs to be on the show more often, because I think he's been great in both the pilot and Clear. And there's you get the zombie stuff, you get the character stuff. It's the first time that Michonne really opened up as a character, and it helped that she was with Carl, who's also kind of began his expansion into a more interesting character. Just everything about that episode I just love, and I did rewatch it recently, so it's like all fresh in my mind.
Mentioning Nebraska just brought to mind. Do you think we'll ever find out anything more about that group that was it Joe and Dave were part of? Do you think they were part of this other Joe's gang, or the governor's group, or just something completely separate?
Who knows?
I think that if the show wanted to do that, it would need to throw something our way to kind of get us ready for something like that to happen. I don't see it at this point happening.
Yeah, I think if they wanted to tie that in, they would have by now.
That's true.
And they would have. I don't know. I doubt it. It's frustrating to think about, apparently.
I don't think it's really that important. Presumably there's lots of groups of various types of marauders.
Yeah.
Both the Jersey Shore Guido types that were in that episode versus the biker gang types that are in this episode versus the governor's type.
And that came from it was that season where like Darabont was gone, Glenn Mazzara came in, and the writing was a little all over the place. Obviously, people were complaining about season 2's pacing, just like some people are now. And it just they might have just cleared out not the whole writing stuff, cleared things out to make way for getting into the governor's stuff and now the stuff that we're at now, tournaments and all that. It might just not be a thing anymore.
I just feel like it's very hard to. It's a tough balance to maintain between the people that want lots of action, zombie action all the time, and the people that really want to focus more on the story. And like we've seen it go back and forth as the seasons have gone by. So
as soon as the Vatos come back, then I'll worry about the gang from Nebraska coming back.
Well, they are heading back into Atlanta, so that is more likely now than ever.
There you go.
Well, let's get into the episode proper. Again, thank you, Craig, for your voicemail. If you'd like to send us a voicemail, we will tell you how at the end of the show. This episode, however, is called US, or Us, depending on how you want to say it. We can get into more on that in the spoiler section at the end of the episode. But it's episode 415 of The Walking Dead. It's directed by Greg Nicotero and written by Nicole Beatty and Seth Hoffman.
Actually, I want to point out that this was supposed to be directed by David S. Goyer originally, and that did not happen. This was that episode.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like a scheduling thing, so he just didn't fit it in. But yeah, it wasn't supposed to be Nicotero originally.
I wouldn't mind seeing a David S. Goyer directed episode. I'd rather avoid one that was written by him, unless it was also co-written by Jonathan Nolan, but that's beside the point. So we start out with Glenn, Tara, Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene are walking down the railroad tracks, and Glenn comes across a message about Terminus that Maggie had left for him. And realizing that Maggie's still alive, Glenn sprints forward down the tracks.
So we're off and running.
Literally.
In somewhere in full body riot armor, running at full speed. Okay.
Yeah, you get lots of momentum that way.
I get that he's excited, and we'll get to more of the adventures of Glenn during this episode, this recap. But where's he going? Like he's like right around the corner. He's gonna just keep sprinting the whole time. I get it, he's excited. Whatever. Move on.
We then cut over to Rick, Carl, and Michonne on another part of the railroad tracks.
Remember them?
Yes,
yeah.
Carl and Michonne are continuing to bond. Everyone seems in slightly better spirits, even Rick. And Carl and Michonne share a candy bar.
Yeah, everything's hunky dory now with Carl, huh?
He's got great balance.
He's like all done being all full of drama and stuff now. Putting with the children out, I guess.
Is that right? I thought he was gonna offer him pudding for winning that.
I thought it was gonna be crazy cheese.
Yeah, that too. Either way, we'll get to the next scene in a second. But I like how this is like the kind version of splitting something in two, and everyone gets a piece. And now we're gonna get to this other scene, these jerk faces and whatnot.
Speaking of jerk faces, meanwhile, Daryl and Len, who is the kind of evil Jesus-looking dude who's part of Joe's group, Daryl's out hunting, kills a rabbit, and Daryl tracked the rabbit, but Len's arrow actually hits the rabbit first. So Len then says claimed, and he claims the rabbit. He argues with Daryl, and Joe shows up and interrupts them. Joe explains to Daryl that the group has a few rules. One of them being that if they want something, they claim it. Once it's claimed, it's yours. No arguing about it. And then because Daryl didn't know the rule, he cuts the rabbit in half for Daryl and Len, and he gives each of them a half. I kind of like Joe as this malevolent post-apocalyptic Solomon. Like, there's a lot more to this character than I would have expected.
It's getting a real Chris Christopherson vibe off of him this episode, and the whole like elevating Dibs to a whole societal level is kind of hilarious. Think about it.
Shotgun.
The best thing about this, like half of the episode, this portion of the episode, is that I did like Joe. I think the work that the actor Jeff Kober's doing to really make this guy work as a potential like person that Daryl can not necessarily look up to, but stick with for the time being. I like the work done to kind of make that character into something that you know has evil written all over him, but at the same time works as a kind of leader figure for the time being, even if it involves putting up this alpha male grade school BS to super stupid levels of claim nonsense that could be yelled at my TV about.
Although I kind of get the impression from Joe that he knows how stupid it is, but he also knows that it's the best way to trick these guys into doing exactly what he wants.
Oh yeah, I get
He's
that.
manipulating
Yeah.
them in an awesome way.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that again comes with what I like about this Joe character. It's just so stupid.
Don't
Scragging Scraggles walking around. I claim that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pick a fight with Daryl because why not?
That's what 3-year-olds do. I mean, that's what my daughter does. Yeah. My toy, mine. She'll mark off like she'll claim stuff. So.
Now, if Joe wasn't there and like Daryl did just take the knife and completely like go after Len wouldn't stand a chance, right? Like he would just kill him like outright. The guy kills tanks. Like Scragging Scraggles has no chance.
It's Daryl Dixon. What do you think?
So later on, Joe and Daryl are walking down the tracks with the group, and Joe encourages Daryl to stay with them, but he does warn him that anyone who lies or steals from the group will take a severe beating, going along with the rules there.
He talks about us, and this is like where the title starts coming.
Yes,
from.
exactly.
He has that kind of us monologue opposed to Daryl saying you're sticking with us for now, or you mean us?
And Daryl keeps saying there is no us.
It's good work. It's good. Again, I like the Joe character, and I like what Norman Reedus is giving here. It's a nice step away from I need to run after Beth and find her. It's nice, to see this side of Daryl come out, where you can kind of see the wheels in his head turning as you try to decipher if he's falling into this trap here, or if he's just biding his time, which I think he is. But we'll see.
I mean, I think that the moment he starts to see real malevolence creep up from them will be the moment he steps back. I mean, right now we know they're evil because we know what they've done, but they're just kind of rough and tumble dudes, which we know he has a history with, so he's at least somewhat comfortable in that atmosphere. But they haven't done anything outright wrong yet. They're just kind of
He did murder a guy for just being a dick.
Well, no, I mean, in the beginning, at least, he didn't know anything more than that. And in that case, well, he was going to kill the guy himself, so.
Yeah, you remember who his older brother was, right?
Yeah, but he's
I don't really
also-
think I don't think his behavior is really too far out of his wheelhouse, if you know what I mean.
He's also a grown up though. It's not like
I
he's a
understand,
teenager
but
that needs to be a role
like,
model.
no, but I mean, Joe is like I could definitely see him like kind of filling that moral role. Like he's both benevolent yet incredibly scary and threatening all at once.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we cut back over to Glenn's group, who eventually come across a building where Walker is about to fall off the roof or the second floor on top of Eugene, but Abraham shoves him and Tara out of the way, which causes Tara to fall to the ground, and she injures herself in the process. So Abraham says we should rest, but Glenn wants to push ahead, so he offers to make a deal that if Abraham's group continues on towards Terminus with him to find Maggie, he will give Eugene his riot gear for protection, and Abraham accepts the deal, and the group continues forward.
It's a good thing that I really like these people, Abraham and Eugene mainly, and actually for that said, Tara's been growing on me immensely in the weeks after her not being my most favorite character. But the staging of the scene was all kinds of off for me, where it's like there's a walker up there, you move out of the way, confusion for some reason. Oh no, I tripped and now my knees broke. Like it's just like all these things that you just to get Tara to have to not be able to walk correctly or as well. Like it felt a little poorly done.
Well, I got the impression that the only real confusion is only, like, it was Glenn and Abraham saw the walker. Everybody else might have heard it, but they weren't looking up to refer to Invincible, the other comic by Robert Kirkman. They weren't expecting the zombie to be there, so they're looking around for a zombie and being told move, but they don't see anything because it's above them.
No, I get exactly what the scene's trying to accomplish. I understand what's going on there. It just in terms of like filming the scene, it just made me uneasy with how poorly done it seemed to be.
I think the way it was blocked is more
Yeah.
the problem than what was actually going on. I mean, I understand what they're trying to convey, but the way it was blocked and kind of edited and shot, I understand what everyone's saying.
Rather than making them look confused, it made them look incompetent, and that was my issue with it.
I see what you mean. And I gotta say, I like that you're coming around on Tara, Aaron, because I think some of my favorite episodes, or favorite moments in this episode, at least in the Glenn storyline, were the interactions between Eugene and Tara. Like, I laughed out loud several times in this episode, which is very rare from Walking Dead.
There was a scene where like he's talking about video. He asked her like, "What's your favorite video game? Or what kind of gamer are you?" And then like it's like a smash cut to nighttime, and you just see like Tara's face, and it looks as if she's been like dealing with Eugene all day and just sick of it. Like it's like hilarious. It's
So this
hilarious.
is after he's talking about how it's a theory, at least a viable theory, that the same virus wiped out the dinosaurs, which he doesn't really believe, but he mostly just likes thinking about zombified ankylosaurs. Right?
I wrote down the quote from that because at the end of that sentence he says that there's a video game worth the pre-order, which made me laugh.
So what are you into? RPGs? Shut up.
So we then cut back to Daryl, and the group that he's with has found refuge in kind of I don't know if warehouse is necessarily the right term, but more of a big garage type feeling building. Daryl awakens to Len, who's an evil Jesus, or what we call him, Scraggling McScraggs.
Yeah, that's about right.
He had a Brad Dourif vibe going on.
If he stretched out Brad Dourif, sure.
And I feel like I've seen him in something else, but I couldn't place it. Anyway, he's accusing Daryl of stealing the other half of the rabbit. So he wants to get into Daryl's his knapsack and prove that Daryl has the other half. And Joe comes over, and Joe says, "Daryl, is it in the bag?" Daryl says, "No, it is not. I didn't touch half the rabbit. I followed the rules." And Joe pours out the bag, and inside is the other half of the rabbit, to which Len says, "Oh, I told you he stole it." And Joe says, and Daryl says, "No, you must have put it in there when I was sleeping or earlier on, and you're just trying to frame me for this." And Joe asks Len, "Did you do that? Are you lying to us right now?" And when Len firmly denies it, Joe says, "Okay," and then he walks over and elbows, I think it was elbows, Len right in the face.
He
punches him right in the
gives him a
face.
punch, yeah.
Was it punch? Okay.
He kind of turns back and then he turns and immediately punches him in the face.
And then he has the whole group go for a giant beatdown on Len and basically tells Daryl, "Yeah, I saw him do it earlier, but I want to see it play out. He took the risk. He paid the price."
We kind of merged this whole plotline together because like there's the whole scene of them arriving at the place and then claiming for all the cars and Daryl's like sleeping on the floor. Then we kind of go away and we come back to that whole Daryl's bag and everything. But
And kudos to the people who cut the promos for this episode, by the way, because I was totally expecting him to knock out Len and then set everybody after Daryl, because from the previews it looked like Daryl was the one getting beaten up. So I thank them for the misdirection.
yeah, it was a scene that made me happy because this guy, like, he's just too hateable for like him to last long enough on the show for me and me be content with it. So like, I'm not glad that he's dead, but I'm glad that this character's no longer going to be on the show because there's just no reason for this nonsense to happen beyond just like making Daryl pissed off, and it could have gone the way of, but he did this and no one else believes me. Well, sad. Like, it's just like instead, yeah, we just killed him because screw this guy.
The next day, or later on that day, when they leave the camp, Daryl finds Len's beaten and killed body outside with an arrow through his head, which I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't take the arrow, although maybe the arrows are not compatible as bolts for the crossbow. I don't know. But he was the first going to throw a sheet over him, and then he decides otherwise and continues on with the group towards Terminus, where they have a conversation about Terminus, and that they probably wouldn't be accepted there, but they're heading there anyway because they're chasing a man who killed one of their own and set that one of their own against them as a zombie. We, of course, know that that's Rick, even though that Daryl doesn't quite know that yet. And we also see on the train tracks as they're heading towards Terminus the candy bar wrapper from Rick, Michonne, and Carl earlier in the episode.
I wonder if there was any rearranging of scenes in this area with the Rick stuff. I'm curious if the Rick scene was always planned to be in this episode, or they just needed to put it somewhere as a reminder, and this is the one that made the most sense. Because I know shows do that sometimes. They have an ensemble cast of multiple plot lines, so they kind of rearrange things. But because it would have been a neat, like, oh, that was a couple episodes when they had that candy bar or something like that. But regardless, I mean, obviously the pieces are set up, and that's where we're headed now. Also, Daryl not leaving a sheet over Len means that he's definitely going to get eaten by somebody, which is also a nice little capper to that character.
I think once you're dead, the zombies aren't interested in you generally, or maybe it's just once you turn.
Once you turn, yeah.
Yeah, so since he was shot to the head, he won't turn. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Food for the take.
Blame. So Glenn's group approaches a tunnel over the train track with a sign for Maggie to proceed, and Glenn goes over and feels it and sees it's still wet, so they must be catching up. Abraham decides that the tunnel of death is too dangerous for the group.
That there is a dark tunnel full of what was it, hungry?
I think it was terrible things or something like that.
And that is nothing but a bad idea. I thought that was a pretty good line.
So they split up. Now Eugene has the riot gear, and Glenn and Tara take a couple cans of food, a flashlight. They tell Glenn and Tara that they're going to return to the last road that they passed if they have trouble getting through, and Glenn and Tara make their way inside of the tunnel, which behind the scenes apparently was built on the back of the prison set, which I would have never guessed. I would have assumed they used a real tunnel, but that was just a good set.
Now, I don't know how tunnels work, maybe, but if there's a tunnel somewhere and there seems to be land accessible over it, it seems like I could have just walked over the tunnel.
Well, they talked about going
That's
over
what I
it.
thought.
Well, by talking about means, Eugene said it will take a day for us to go around it. I didn't really see much talking besides. It'll take us a day. Like a real throwaway line of dialogue.
Yeah, this is like another of Glenn's bad decisions in this episode. I mean, I think we have the right idea of how a tunnel works, right?
They didn't really say anything about the geography of this land for me to be like, why can't we just walk on top of this tunnel?
Right.
I would say going on top of it certainly makes more sense, but it did take Eugene and Abraham and Rosita a good, what seemed like a couple hours to even drive around it, so at least he seemed to be having the right train of thought when he was talking about going around it.
Did it though? I mean, it was still daytime. Like, it didn't seem like there was much time lost in between.
Long enough for Abraham to fall asleep, and for Rosita to start getting annoyed with Eugene already.
Fair. All right.
Which was awesome.
I'm nitpicking for no reason.
No,
It's just like I feel like I'm being treated like I don't know how tunnels work in this episode.
So inside the tunnel, Glenn and Tara find a bunch of walkers over the edge of a collapsed part of the tunnel. So they're at first not sure what they're going to do. They look around, make sure Maggie's not one of them. The tunnel didn't collapse on top of them because it seems to be a recent collapse, but they don't find Maggie.
I call it the Wall of the Dead.
Yeah, it was very creepy. It was very reminiscent of Day of the Dead, which we'll get to again later. But just, the body parts sticking out of rocks and stuff. And a really gross, I wouldn't even say drooling zombie, but it was like just a big ball of phlegm fell out of its mouth as they were walking past. It was gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need one more yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Claim.
Very much so. Agreed.
There was their attempt to get through it, which was like Glenn just stabbing him in the head. I kept thinking, no, they should play like Operation, don't touch the sides. Just kind of like move carefully through the Wall of the Dead and try to get back. But no, they just went for the old stabby route.
So do you want them to make smart decisions or not? I'm having trouble following.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go down the path of dumb decision, might as well keep consistent. So
That's fair enough.
It looked cool.
it did. They're zombie mortar.
So they climb over the big pile of rocks and rubble, and they see a bunch of zombies on the other side. They climb down one side, and Tara gets her foot stuck under a rock. I think, was it Glenn knocked the rock down accidentally, or she did?
She just stepped on something wrong and just kind of fell in.
And it traps her against the side of the tunnel. So the zombies start coming. Glenn's trying to get her out from her trapped foot, and he won't leave her. She tells him to leave. He won't. Finally, the zombies are about to get them, including one who looks exactly like Bub from Day of the Dead. If you haven't watched the original Day of the Dead, you should go check it out. If you only see the remake, don't even bother. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
No. Not claim.
Yes, yeah. Anyone doesn't have it.
Anti-claim.
The quote-unquote remake of Day of the Dead, because it basically only has the same name, is awful. But the original Day of the Dead is quite good, and the zombie looks just like Bub from that movie, who's a pivotal character in the movie. The zombies are approaching them, so Glenn takes out a sidearm. He fires as many bullets as he has at the zombies, and then let's cut back outside because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We mentioned earlier that Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, they're in a vehicle, they find a vehicle, they're making their way around, and Eugene really wants to be the navigator, despite the fact that apparently this has gone bad in the past. Some more very funny scenes with him, which I was really enjoying. But Rosita eventually steps back and lets him be the navigator. She's going to drive. But at a certain point, she's getting annoyed. Abraham's asleep in the back seat, and she says that Eugene's already had her make 3 left turns, and trying to figure out what's going on. He has her stop. Eventually, Abraham wakes up because Eugene hits him in the head with the chair, which is funny again. And they're having this big argument about what's going on. They finally figure out that Eugene has put them right on the other side of the tunnel, and he's timed it out so he thinks that this is when the other guy should be getting through if they're okay. And at that moment, everybody's arguing. Eugene looks out the window and he tells them, what was the line? Something about, what is that? Or guys, something along those lines.
Yeah, basically that.
So we don't see what that is. I think that's commercial there. We're back inside the tunnel. Glenn and Tara are about to get overrun by the zombies when all of a sudden you hear an engine noise and lights coming around the side of the tunnel. They're told to get down, and we see several figures illuminated in silhouette who take down the zombies very heartily with lots and lots of bullets. And then we see that Eugene, Abraham, and Rosita found Bob, Sasha, and Maggie. They have all teamed up. They've rescued Glenn and Tara. Everybody hugs. It's awesome.
Go team.
End of the episode. Just kidding. But it is awesome. Finally, Maggie and Glenn are back together.
It was a nice Shaun of the Dead moment. Like, everything's
Yes,
going wrong.
I thought of that too.
Right? Exactly what I Shaun of the Dead. That was I said that out loud. It's like, Shaun of the Dead's ending.
I was waiting for Yvonne to walk around the corner. It would have been awesome.
How amazing would that be?
I was both. I thought it was an Expendables trailer for a second. Really didn't feel like that.
It was a little overkill, but it was cool. It was a very cool hero shot.
Backing up like a tad to Eugene and Rosita having a spat. I can't say that I was really impressed with Rosita as far as acting goes this episode. I feel like a lot of the dialogue was really forced. That was my impression of it.
I mean, this is the first episode she's really had anything to do in. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it, but I haven't had a lot to judge it against from her so far.
I mean, I can judge it against what I consider good acting. And
No,
bad
100%.
acting. Yeah.
I will say, let's return to Jordan's jacket corner. Her jacket, when she finally puts on real clothes, is awesome. With the tactical patches and everything.
It was nice that you're wearing jeans and like clothes that feel responsible for a person in the apocalypse this episode.
Yeah, so they got their little, shot from the comics of everybody looking exactly like they did in the comics, and now let's put them in some real clothes that work in the real world. I'm fine with that.
As much as I enjoyed hearing Abraham say those things are damn near hypnotic, it was nice to hear just not sit there. I gotta say, I love this crew. Like, issues with Rosita aside, I like these three, and like I want this kind of energy to be more, not overwhelmed. You're Walking Dead, but it's nice. If last episode we're dealing with dead children not running around anymore. It's nice to have this kind of comic booky balance, which I addressed the first time we kind of had a whole episode with them, where the same thing when like Michonne first entered the scene, it's like that's new and different. I like that, as opposed to hey, it's just really sad and depressing all the time. So like I like this energy that they're bringing, especially Abraham. I think Michael Douglas is doing a tremendous job as Abraham, where he's a big tough guy, but he's not he's not a jerk about it. He's like, yeah, I got a mission, but I'm also have sense of humor. Good for me. Like,
Yeah, definitely is a lighter touch, and it's definitely appreciated after, like you said, after last episode.
I have no doubt that next episode things are probably gonna be pretty heavy, but it is nice as far as tone goes.
Season finale, of course.
Yeah. Let alone the various people coming to Terminus and possibly things that could happen at Terminus.
So after they've hugged and said all their hellos, we flash forward a little bit. They've set up a camp inside the tunnel. They've roped it off on both sides, so they think they're gonna be pretty safe. And then they have a discussion where Maggie, Sasha, and Bob have been clued in on the whole, hey, Eugene says he knows how to save the world, so do you want to join us? And after some discussion, they eventually settle on, hey, we're only a day from Terminus. Let's go to Terminus first, see if we can meet the rest of our people, see if they've showed up, at least scope it out, and then, then we'll go to Washington. Some of us will go to Washington, some of us will stay there at Terminus. So that's what they decide to do.
It's a very completely reasonable way to go about it. I agree with what Sasha had to say. You know what? I didn't talk about Glenn at all, and I meant to. Sorry, I got to back up now. I like Glenn. Glenn's a good guy. I like Stephen Yeun. He's good. Maggie's cool too. Glenn really kind of seems selfish this episode to me. Like, it was the first time it really felt that way to me. I'm not saying like he's this horrible monster person that only has one thing ever on his mind. I'm just saying he's putting a lot of people in harm's way for the sake of this like mission of some girl he hasn't seen in a couple days. And I get that it's it's the end of the world and he's worried, but it felt very obvious to me that he was like doing things that just felt harsher than just he's in love and he's a fine girl. Like, he just felt like, hey, I'm putting people in danger because this is the thing that needs to be done. Nothing else matters, including the world saving aspect of these people I'm with.
But he's not putting anyone in danger. They're putting themselves in danger. He's not making anyone come with him. People are just following him. He's acting very selflessly, and everybody else is arguing with him about, well, I guess we're just going to follow you now. Like, that's their own fault if they get hurt, as far as I'm concerned.
That's the way to think of it. That's how I'm trying to judge it, so I don't hate Glenn, but it stuck out to me this episode.
Like, he saves Tara, he's not going to let her get killed, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that saves it as well. It's like, we're going to the tunnel of death, guys. That's the plan here.
Well, his plan is for him to go in the tunnel of death. He's perfectly fine to go in there by himself.
He knows Tara will come along. There's no chance he's not leaving.
And I think Glenn as a character has been smarter than that in the past. It just seemed like he was making a lot of stupid decisions that kind of didn't make sense for the character to make. For me, anyway. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
this is the guy who went down the well.
Yeah, maybe I'm giving Glenn too much credit. I'm sorry.
This is the most Glenn material we've gotten for like a while, basically, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Got to be with that Maggie. Yeah. But now we're together, so.
Maggie and Glenn also have a nice scene where she sees that he has the photo, and they decide to burn it because they're never going to need it again. We'll see how that works. But it's still a nice sentiment.
It's a nice sentiment, yes, that's a good way to put it.
And he made the right decision by not taking off his wife by, or post-apocalyptic common law wife, whatever you want to call it, by not disagreeing with her, despite the fact that it seemed like he kind of did. So
Post-apocalyptic common law wife.
I think he should have made a little effort to say, this is the thing that got me to get after you. I looked at this picture and it's like, I can't give up, I need to find you. That would actually make me happier too with this episode, if you just explained what that picture meant to him. He's like, no, I can't, that's the only picture I have.
We should also probably mention that he sugarcoats the truth, to put it nicely, about Tara, and does not tell Maggie who she really is, which I think made it more suspicious looking than if he had said nothing. But yes, he goes out of his way not to say that Tara was part of the governor's crew, and Maggie gives her a big hug, which seems to make Tara very uncomfortable.
Well, she likes girls too. So.
Well, but she also knows what her guilt. I'm well aware of that, man. That was another scene that I laughed at quite heartily. So the next day, they make their way to Terminus. We get our nice episode and music montage of them trucking towards Terminus, which does appear to be a very old train station, which makes sense.
Wait, totally unlocked.
That was a little weird.
Totally unguarded. You know what I mean? There was like an unlocked chain on the one fence, and then the other fence was totally unlocked and unpatrolled, yet everything was totally in order. You know what I mean?
Snipers, Jim, snipers.
They didn't show any snipers.
I mean, obviously we'll find out more next week, but sometimes even the animals know where not to go.
I'm just saying.
And they make their way inside. There's flowers everywhere and laundry and other 1950s Sunnydale accoutrement. And they find a woman whose name is, I don't know if they say it in the episode, but her name is Mary, played by Denise Crosby, who's Tasha Yar from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And she offers them something to eat, and we end the episode.
I saw so many tweets about Tasha Yar. I don't watch Star Trek, so I have no idea what they're talking about. I looked this up. I was like, who's Tasha Yar? Whatever.
Tasha Yar was the security chief of the Enterprise in the first 4 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Was she evil?
No, she was killed in the line of duty saving. She had like a brief affair with Data, actually, but she died in the line of duty saving.
Data's a robot, correct?
Android,
yes.
Is he a love android?
When his emotion chip is working.
But then she was replaced by Worf.
And then didn't like the Mirror Universe version of her come back, or there was some way they brought her back eventually?
Romulan clone of her.
You know how that always happens.
This includes STTV podcast, where we talk about Star Trek: Next Generation.
A show that premiered 17 days after I was born, if I remember correctly.
I have this useless information in my head. I may as well use it once in a while. That's how I look at it. But yeah, very creepy vibe in the episode. No one else around, as far as we can tell, except for this woman, and she's making barbecue.
I'm curious if anyone thought this wasn't creepy, because like even with the music, like doing its best to be like, yeah, this place is cool. Like I could not wrap my mind around this being anything but a creepy thing. Like I mean,
it's creepy because it's on The Walking Dead. If this was on some other show, it might not be seem creepy, but we know what show this we're watching.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like it's like music. It didn't feel like deliberately like happy. It just felt more of like a calming kind of way to bring the episode to a close. But it felt like that didn't even do it for me in terms of making me feel any kind of safe. It just felt like creeped out completely, more so than a lot of the other creepy things that have been on this show in general.
Well, part of that for me was her line delivery.
Yeah,
like whatever she said felt like a prepared speech, but not like a actress delivering a written speech poorly, but like this is something she said many times and it just comes off creepy.
Completely, yes, I completely agree. Yeah.
So I think we're all in agreement. Something's off here, which again we know what show we're watching, so duh. But and I guess we can probably get into some theorizing in the spoiler section later on in the episode. Before we get to the Buster ratings for this episode, Aaron, when you're not watching television and movies and rating them and podcasting about them, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, in the event that I'm not doing any of those things that I'm constantly doing, I do like to read comics.
Well, comics are expensive. How do you afford comics without breaking the bank?
You know, I use this site that you talked about every so often.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we've got a sponsor. It's dcbservice.com. That's right. If you go to dcbservice.com, that's discount comic book service, you can get all your comic book needs, single issues, some trades and some floppies. For those who really want to go to instocktrades.com, their sister site, they got some of those as well. T-shirts, baseball caps, posters, any type of comic or comic-related thing that you can think of, there's a good chance that they have it or no way to get it at deep, deep discounts. Like we said, comics can be expensive these days. It's not the 1950s anymore. You can't get 10 of them for a nickel or however much they used to cost. They can run a pretty penny, but there's a lot of great stories out there. There's a lot of great art. There's a lot of great comic book action figures and posters and all that kind of stuff. If you want to get it and you want to save yourself some cash, which I think all of us can appreciate doing these days, you're going to want to go to dcbservice.com or instocktrades.com. Let them know that the Walking Dead TV podcast sent you, and you can save a pretty penny there and get lots and lots of cool stuff, including Walking Dead stuff. As the season's about to end, there are tons of Walking Dead comics out there. The trades, the compendium editions, the hardcovers, action figures, the prose books. You can get most of that stuff right there at dcbservice.com or instocktrades.com and fill yourself in over the off season.
I also wanted to mention they don't just have comics and graphic novels. I mean, they have T-shirts and toys and models and all kinds of other pop culture stuff. So I mean, if you're looking for a Michonne action figure or a hoodie with a picture of Carl telling you to stick him up on the back or something, they probably set you right there as well. Also with a huge discount.
Claimed.
And you can claim it too at dcbservice.com. So, gentlemen, with that out of the way, what are your Buster ratings for this week's episode? Our penultimate episode of season 4.
I give it a solid 3.5 Busters. I think the episode is a lot of table setting. Overall, it's a lot of moving the puzzle pieces around the game board to get us to where we need to be for the next episode, which I'm sure will have lots of things going on. But at the same time, nitpicks aside, I continue to like Abraham a lot. I like the expansion of his character. Eugene I actually like as well. His odd delivery works for me, and I like the expansion of the Joe character. And of course we have our regulars Daryl and everybody else in there, consistent as always. But yeah, mostly this is a big setup for what's coming next week, which is kind of different. I was looking at the other episodes of penultimate episodes of the season. A lot of big things happen in the episode 9s of Walking Dead. Like Shane died in the penultimate episode of season 2, and I think Merle died in the penultimate episode of season 3. So it's a little bit of a change this time around.
I give it a 3.5 as well. This is mostly connective tissue. This episode, getting the gang back together, finally reaching terminus. It didn't seem like I said, it just seemed like a lot of plot machinations moving on to the next big payoff for the next big thing. So there were a few cool character moments here and there. I love the stuff with Abraham and Eugene, but overall, and the whole Joe Pack wolf mentality was kind of weird. Seeing Daryl kind of succumb to that. But 3.5 for me, just because, like I said, it just seemed Aaron put it really well. The pieces are in motion, like getting set up for the final, for the season finale. So it was a lot of filler, but no killer.
I'll go a little bit higher than that. I'll give you a 3.75 for this week's episode. I agree. Table setting, absolutely getting the pieces where it needs to go. But I thought done really well. I also really loved all of the Eugene and Abraham stuff. I even liked the Rosita stuff quite a bit. And the Joe stuff was really interesting to me. Yes, Len was a creep and whatever, but Joe's character really intrigues me. I actually hope they don't kill him off next episode and we can get some more of him next season, because the whole scheme he's got going on is something a little bit different for the show, and that's always interesting as we go forward. So not a great episode, but solid. So 3.75.
There were some cool Walker kills in this one. One in particular that I enjoyed towards the beginning, where the Walker kind of stumbles on Joe's camp and it gets to the security fence, and then it slices its whole Chico on the barbed wire.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too.
That was pretty gnarly. And then
Natalia zombie, you could call him.
Exactly. And then he gets the bayonet out and takes him out, and then he promptly keys on him. He's like, oh, might as well do some morning business here.
That also works if you want to claim something.
I was like the rabbits. Okay, move on.
Well, if they're going to eat those, I guess you get the fire will get rid of the uric acid, but whatever, that's beside the point. Jim, what did our listeners on our Walking Dead TV Facebook group think of this week's episode?
Well, we have quite an active and fun Facebook group on the Facebooks. That's where a good number of Facebook groups happen to be.
And, almost 100% of them.
Almost all of them are there. It's the Walking Dead TV podcast Facebook group, and we post a lot of fun stuff there, a lot of news. There's a lot of good discussion of the episodes as they come out, so by all means, join us there and join in on the fun. Our listeners were mostly favorable, not a lot of lukewarm reception, much like our assessment. Susan Monk got 89 out of 127 hours, which is equivalent to 3.5 out of 5. Claimed rabbit parts.
That was good.
Also, how much ammunition are these people carrying around? I like that. Mike Jones, 5 minivans out of 5. Thank God the whole crew is back to fixing this from the last few weeks. Bonus Buster for no Judith. Yeah, Mike Jones just has it out for Judith.
What'd you ever do to him?
He hates all small children.
So do I, but I don't have a problem with this one yet. I'm sure she'll get there, but let her at least earn it.
It's quite annoyed him yet, right? Everard Santa Maria is going to go 3.25 out of 5 cement cave-ins caused by gunshots? Question mark. This episode, except for learning the code of Jones group, seemed way too Hollywood for what we like about the show. If you mean by Hollywood, like superficial and not as well written as some of the other episodes, I guess I'd have to agree. Starring Howard, 4 out of 5 severed rabbits. What does the show have against bunnies? I don't know. Craig DeMarco, 3.0 X Star Trek actors out of 5 Cobra, and now Crosby. What a waste of episodes this has been. Ooh, all roads lead to terminus. Season 4, the end can't come soon enough. 2.5 out of 5 large chunks of meat on the grill from Leo Cavallo. I didn't exactly like this episode. Nothing major happened except Glenn and May reunion, which I think was executed poorly. Philip Hurd gives us 3.5 T-Dogs. Did the lady terminus have that book from the Twilight Zone to serve man? Good reference there, Philip. I got it. Trisha Terrell Collins, 3 out of 5. Let's go to DC for this week's episode. I couldn't keep up with the intense drama of last week, of course, and the happy Glenn reunited with Maggie seems so implausible that the two combined groups suddenly appear and rescue Glenn and Tara at the end of the tunnel. Loving Eugene, though.
Why did that seem implausible?
All these were set up pretty carefully.
Yeah, everybody was headed to the same place. So
we knew they were right behind because the sign was still wet, so I don't know. That of all the things you could nitpick, it didn't bother me.
Daryl Taylor of the Taylor Network of podcasts, of which I'm a collaborator as well. I give this 3 out of 5. Claim it already. This episode was okay. I was getting bored with the Glenn and Maggie storyline. I'm ready to see what the deal is with Terminus. I'm sure a lot of us are here. Has our next 3 really questionable decisions out of 5. Thank you. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Terry Bernard, I enjoyed the episode. Gave it 3.75. I think with a show like this, we have to expect the worst with Terminus. Gee, you think? Mary Patchy at 3. It's going to taste like chicken out of 5. This episode did very little for me. Samantha Joppy gives it 4 claims out of 5. Things are perfectly set up for the finale now. Michael Santana 4. Tashi R. Welcome wagons out of 5. Played Mystery Meat. Yes, please. Charlotte Bensavega 4. Haunted House Hallway hypnotizing Hooters out of 5. Wow, yeah, that's the most alliterative I think we get this week. Christine Webb 2.5 out of 5. Who gives a crap about video games and Cure Eugene? I don't know. I kind of like Eugene.
I kind of like video games.
I like video games even more than I like Eugene. Brent Jones 4.5. Beth, it's what's for dinner out of 5. I also want to shout out Brad Milo, who said his daughter made the same claim that that might be what's on the barbecue at Terminus. Might be Beth.
Beth, it's the other white meat.
It's a B, BQ. The extra B is for Beth. Tom Bona, 4 out of 5 plates of whatever Mary is serving up. Ew. Max Silver, 4 out of 5 outdoor cats. I don't just think Terminus is a trap. I think everything we've ever seen this half season has been a trap. The funeral home is the obvious one, but look at how most cars are gone in the few that don't have gas, except for the Magic Van, even the ones in the garage, and how easy shelter is to come by on this path. That's a point. Maybe the seated, the maximum traffic flow there. It's an interesting theory. 3 out of 5 zombie Diplodocus from Ian Timms. Try making a point and shoot zombie dinosaur game for iPad. More Eugene. Richard Chopper Cherry Charrington. I give this episode 4.5 rabbits out of 5. Building up to a big finish. Terminus doesn't look too welcoming. Going to be interesting when Daryl's new buddies meet up with Rick. Yeah, I should think so. Adam Fatah gives it episode 3 out of 5. Ignore the sign saying lower your weapons. Yeah, they did kind of ignore that as they walked in. Again, if you want to join in on the fun discussion, we have a lot of cool people who like to post quite often on the site there. It's the Facebook group is the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group. Please join us.
Yes, indeedy. So do we have anything before we go into our spoiler / season finale speculation section? There's some alliteration for you. Gentlemen?
I am quite excited for the finale just because it'll be nice to have a perspective on where this has all led to and be able to kind of assess the season based on that. And, for the time being, while I've had gripes with various episodes throughout this kind of second half of the season, I have appreciated this new dynamic of, let's focus on different people for different episodes at a time. And has it affected the pacing? Sure. But I like seeing a show take chances like this as opposed to giving me the same thing week after week. So I'm hoping to see it wrapped up in a way that makes me even more satisfied with what they were going for all along.
Very cool. So that's it for this week's episode, of course, like we said, except for the speculation and spoilers at the end. So if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, just like Craig did, you can do so in 2 ways. You can send us a voicemail through the voicemail line at 972-798-3830. That's 972-798-3830. Or you can send us a regular email or record an MP3 and send it to comments@walkingdeadtv.com. Check out hhwlod.com and walkingdeadtv.com for all of our great shows like Half Hour Wasted, The Long Box of Doom, The Black Box, Out Now with Aaron and Abe, Jersey Shore, Ichabod, Cranecast, Shaken Not Stirred, our brand new James Bond podcast, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast. There's a ton of stuff there. You should check it out.
I was at Paley Fest this week for Sleepy Hollow, and I got to attend the Sleepy Hollow panel, and of course I did the Ichabod Cranecast, and I recorded the entire Paley Fest panel audio, and that's posted right now as our newest episode of the Ichabod Cranecast for those that are fans of the show Sleepy Hollow.
I'm always a little disappointed that Paley Fest is not a convention of paleontologists.
I was the first time, but I got over it,
Or maybe a convention of albinos.
Is there a famous albino named Paley? Oh, Paley. Oh, gotcha. That's all, folks. You can follow us on Twitter as well for even more albino puns, probably at some point. At WDTV Podcast and at HHWLOD_network. I'm at Jordan FRM Jersey. Aaron is at Aaron's PS4. And Jim is at Yoda Jones. And so until there's no more room left in hell and a dead wealthy earth, remember, there's no us in team. Have a good week, everybody.
The team is spelled meat. Okay.
There is meat in team, though.
And next week on The Walking Dead, spoilers, if you don't want to know anything about it, tune out now. The episode is entitled A, which is why I say that this week's episode could be titled Us, or it could be titled US, especially because we know that Eugene and his crew are interested in saving the country and the world by getting to DC with their prospective cure. But next week's episode, 416, is titled A, and the very brief synopsis we have from AMC is Rick comes face to face with sheer brutality when multiple paths collide. I think we could have guessed that, but let's go into some speculation now, gentlemen. We've got the Terminus, we've seen it, we've smelled the flowers, we've smelled barbecue, we've seen the creepy lady. What are we thinking?
I mean, obviously I'm already creeped out by the very notion of this place and what I've seen of it so far, but I know Brad agrees with me on this one. I'm kind of thinking they're cannibals. That's the only thing that seems logical to me.
And there's been precedent in zombie fiction before, including the Walking Dead comics and the Walking Dead video games. It's a very real fear, especially if you've seen The Road.
Well, I mean, it's not too far from a storyline that was in the comics. I mean, if you can rework it or whatever, the same kind of thing happened in the book. So, I mean, it wouldn't be too far out of place, for it to show up here on the show as well.
For sure.
Other white meat.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing to base that off really besides just speculation, so I can't say for sure. And of course, there could be other things that make this place threatening as well. But
allergies for one,
a lot of flowers. I mean, but that's one thing we haven't seen so far in the show, and we've already gone down a pretty dark road this season anyway. So I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to say, oh yeah, also people that eat people. But yeah, I mean, I know some people thought that the hunter or whatever, the Joe and the gang might have been a part of Terminus all along. Obviously, that's not true anymore. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of potential here, but I just don't see it going anywhere that's sunny and happy.
Do we think the crew that made it to Terminus in this week's episode was the first of our cast to get there?
Yeah.
Maybe Beth.
Beth, you got Rick, Carl, and Michonne.
I mean, I don't think
Daryl presumably far behind them, but
I'd say Rick and Daryl are still far off, or not far off, but not there. I wouldn't be surprised if Carol and Tyrese may have made it there, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Beth has been there.
Fresh delivered from the back of the trunk of a car to you, straight to the grill. Our best to your family.
Order online. So we have any other speculation we want to put in before we end it? Who do you think's going to die?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's definitely the question. I mean, it is the season finale, and it is traditional that somebody gets killed.
I'd be annoyed, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bob died, sacrificing himself perhaps, something like that.
You don't think all this happiness between Glenn and Maggie speaks of one of them dying? Especially with him burning the picture and everything?
Maggie's lack of regard for her sister, who's also gone, seems a little alarming for me. It's like, oh yeah, where's Beth? I should be worried about that too. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of the green girls got it next week, but I don't know. I don't know who this main. If anything, it'd be Sasha or Bob, one of these periphery characters. This is more supporting characters than the main cast. I don't really see any of the main cast.
What's the word you're looking for? Tertiary?
Yes, I was trying to do tertiary.
It's a fun word.
Yeah.
I could see Bob, Sasha. I could see Beth, or Maggie, or maybe Glenn. But I don't know about that. I could see Rosita possibly, but I feel like if they were going to kill her off, they would have given her a little bit more to do at this point.
Yeah.
You've got I assume most of Joe's guys die, whether or not he dies or not. I'd assume there's other red shirts at Terminus. It is weird that we only saw one person, but I'm going to assume there is at least some type of group there, because otherwise, why cook barbecue if there aren't people to eat it? I'd assume plenty of them could die. I don't see Rick dying or Michonne. Maybe Carl. It would be certainly surprising.
Yeah, it would be. My thought on that is, if anything, if Joe survives next week, I feel like he could potentially kidnap Carl and take him with him.
That could be interesting. Joe and Carl on the road.
Yeah.
Ooh, I would totally watch that show. That could be the spinoff right there.
The Joe and Carl hour.
Something I want to mention real quick, since we're in the spoiler department, and it was news this week, or that I read that they want to shop The Walking Dead around for syndication.
Yeah.
by editing it down for consumption on broadcast and
Didn't TBS or
syndication.
somebody get the rights? Somebody like TBS or something? Or USA maybe?
I thought it was like a Fox station or something.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was. Well,
I thought it was like a group of Fox affiliates.
Yeah, that's an affiliate of Fox. Yeah.
Gotcha. Actual Fox networks, not just owned by the company. Yeah, I mean that's fairly standard for stuff like this.
Popular show that's going to keep having new episodes. To make it work.
I just remember The Sopranos on E&E.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah.
I mean, how are they going to show The Grove on like that episode on broadcast? I mean, they're just going to show the first 15 minutes and good night, everybody.
Really, the biggest thing they're gonna have to cut out is the S word. That's the thing they're gonna have to cut out the most. Some of the blood, and even beyond that, if you've ever seen any episode of CSI or Law and Order, it's not that far beyond the pale.
Criminal Minds is like the worst one.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's exactly what I think too. It's just a matter of they're not going to change the content of plot based on like this is what we deem inappropriate. They're going to take things out based on content of violence and language and whatnot. Which
You'll see less decapitations probably, that kind of stuff.
but yeah, good for the show. Yeah, syndication. Make more t-shirts. Claim.
Get to see all new promos for episodes you've already seen, and some of those syndication promos are very funny.
Oh yeah, if it goes Fox Family style, it'd be like, oh my god.
This week on The Walking Dead, Rick and Carl.
Shane has eyes for Lori, but wait, Carl also has.
Carl also has eyes for Lori. What?
Hey, wait a minute. That's not a cheeseburger.
The gang looks for Merle, but little do they know, Merle slipped away, but he left a little friend behind. Where?
Oh no, Bloody fell down a well again.
I think at this point it's clear we have lost our minds, so it's time to send it on home. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll join you next week, maybe a day or so late, just so we can get as many people on as possible for our discussion of the season finale. Have a good one.
Claim.